Hunger in the dark. 1. The taste of ash. By the time Captain Elena Park realized something was wrong with the food, half the crew of the Orpheus had already stopped eating. It started as complaints, quiet at first, easy to dismiss amid the background hum of the ship. Powdered eggs tasted like cardboard. Protein cubes were suddenly off, like they had sat out too long under a yellow sun. Coffee, always bitter, now felt like it had been brewed from rust and dust. Supply batches contaminated, Malik had said, leaning back from his tray with a frown. As chief engineer, he blamed everything on logistics. I told command this contract caterer was trash. Dr. Ayasato, the ship's xenobiologist, had shaken her head. Nutrient scans are normal. Chemically, it's fine. Tell that to my mouth, Rivera, the cook, had grumbled, spitting into a napkin. It's like chewing insulation. Elena had forced herself to finish her meal in front of them out of principle. The crew watched. A captain eating with her people. It mattered. She had smiled, chewed, swallowed, and pretended not to notice how the food turned to dry ash against her tongue, how every swallow scraped down her throat like sandpaper. The taste stayed with her for hours. By the third day, no one was pretending anymore. 2. A silent mess hall. The mess hall of the Orpheus had never been quiet. Even on bad days, even after 12-hour shifts deep in the anomalies of the Kepler Drift, someone cracked a joke, someone cursed at the news feed, someone argued about some ancient movie. Now it sounded like a hospital waiting room. Trays sat untouched or half-finished. People arrived late or not at all. Conversations died quickly, smothered under a vague, shared discomfort. Elena watched her crew from the head of the room. Malik poked a fork at a slab of printed soy protein as if it might leap up and bite him. Ilya Voronin, ship's medic, turned his cup of coffee slowly, staring at the surface as though answers might crystallize there. Sato sat alone, eyes fixed on her datapad, but Elena could tell she was not reading. The same line of text flickered on the screen. "All right," Elena finally said, standing. "Talk to me." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. On a crew of 12, every sound carried. Rivera sighed. His usually immaculate apron had a faint smear of something dark. "Food's bad, Captain." "We've established that," Elena said. "Be more specific." Rivera hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the others, as if afraid they might hear what he was about to admit. "It's not spoiled. I've checked everything. Storage temperatures, contamination markers, package seals. The printers are within tolerance, the organic stock is clean. But when I cook it, it's like," he grimaced, groping for words, "like the taste got erased. The texture, too. It's like your mouth knows you're chewing, but your brain refuses to care." "It's not just cooked food," Malik said. "Try to concentrate pouch raw, same thing." Elena nodded. "Medical." All eyes turned to Ilya. The doctor ran a hand over his stubble, the dark circles under his eyes deeper than usual. "No pathogens detected, no systemic infections. Vitals are normal more or less. Some mild dehydration. Stress markers climbing, but that checks out, we're all on edge." He paused. "Appetites are abnormal." "Abnormal how?" Elena pressed. Ilya looked away. "They're low or high, it's hard to say." He hesitated. "People don't want to eat, but something in the body is screaming that it needs to." A chill threaded through the room, thin but undeniable. "Could this be psychological?" Sato asked quietly. "Group suggestion, maybe. We all expect things to go wrong out here, so a minor variance in taste." "It's not minor," Rivera snapped, then immediately looked apologetic. "Sorry, Doc. It's when I put food in my mouth, it's like my body rejects it. No nausea, no gagging, just nothing, like chewing a photograph of food." Elena forced her shoulders to relax. "We're 3 weeks from the drift boundary. We've run survey route 74 times before without incident. No anomalies in local space. No weird signals. No exotic particles. So let's not conjure up a ghost." She felt their eyes on her, searching for reassurance, for some hint she believed the words she was saying. "Doctor," she continued, "run full metabolic panels on everyone. Malik, check the recyclers and life support for trace contaminants that the kitchen scanners might miss. Sato, review recent sensor logs for anything unusual, radiation spikes, microbursts, whatever. Rivera, do what you can to make the food palatable until we figure this out." "And if we do," someone muttered from the back. Elena didn't see who said it. She didn't ask. "We will," she said instead. "Dismissed." They rose in a shuffle of quiet footsteps and clinking utensils, some leaving their trays behind untouched. Elena stayed seated for a moment longer, looking down at her own plate. The printed steak lay there perfectly shaped, seared by Rivera's skilled hand. It smelled like nothing. When she cut a piece and lifted it to her mouth, her jaw locked for a fraction of a second in instinctive refusal. She forced herself to bite, to chew, to swallow. She felt as if she had just swallowed air that had learned how to disappoint. 3 log entries. Ship's log, Captain Elena Park, Day 12/cycle 196. Crew reports altered taste and texture of standard rations. No objective anomalies detected in supplies or ship systems yet. Possible psychosomatic origin, compounded by isolation stress. Ordered full medical scans and system diagnostics. No change in mission status. Medical log, Dr. Ilya Voronin, Day 13/cycle 196. Metabolic panels show something interesting. Glucose uptake is within normal ranges, but leptin and ghrelin cycles are irregular. It's as if the hormonal system that signals hunger and satiety is firing wildly, both starving and sated at once. Trace neurochemical imbalances in hypothalamus scans. No clear cause. Crew reports the same subjective experience. Food has no meaning. Have recommended hydration and vitamin supplements to prevent deterioration while we investigate. Private note, Dr. Ilya Voronin, unsent. I tried eating my favorite thing today, those contraband pickled peppers Malik smuggled aboard. They tasted like plastic dipped in old memory. I chewed and nothing happened inside. No spark of pleasure, no spike of nostalgia, just emptiness. Something is wrong with us, not with the food. I haven't told Elena that yet. 4. The first smell. The first real fracture appeared 4 days later, in the engine bay. Elena was asleep when the emergency alarm chirped in her earpiece, not a full klaxon, just a sharp, insistent tone. Hull breach, fire, power transient. She rolled out of her bunk in the captain's cabin and slapped the wall panel. Bridge report. No immediate answer, only the background murmur of the ship's life support. "Bridge," she repeated, already pulling on her jumpsuit. "Talk to me." Malik's voice came through, breathless. "We've got an industrial accident in the bay. Rivera slipped on a coolant spill and went down hard. Might have a compound fracture. Ilya's here. We've sealed the area, but—" The hesitation in his voice made her stop midway through zipping up. "But what?" A pause. "But you should come, now." The bay was a cavernous space of metal and shadows, lit in flickering amber. Humid, oily air enveloped her as she stepped inside. The heaviest machinery slept, wrapped in their housings, but the place hummed with the low throb of the reactor deeper within the ship's spine. She saw them immediately, a huddle of bodies near the far bulkhead. Malik, Ilya, Rivera on the deck propped halfway upright, face pale beneath his dark skin. And blood. A dark smear marred the grating, vivid against the dull steel. A shard of fractured ladder lay nearby. Elena cursed under her breath. "What the hell happened?" she demanded, striding over. Malik pushed a hand through his hair, leaving a streak of grease. "Coolant line purge. I told Rivera to stay clear, but he—" "I wanted to redo the seals," Rivera muttered. His voice shook, either from pain or something else. "They look sloppy." "And you slipped," Elena said, crouching beside him. His left leg lay at an odd angle. Bones snapped under the skin, judging by the swelling. Ilya had already set up a portable med kit. He pressed a bandage along Rivera's shin where the skin had torn. Blood welled up between his fingers, bright and thick. The smell hit Elena then, copper and salt and something deeper, more primal. For a heartbeat, she forgot how to breathe. It wasn't just the sharp tang of blood. It was warmth, richness. The way it folded into the stale, mechanical odor of the bay and cut through everything else with a knife edge of sudden, visceral clarity. Her mouth watered. Elena swallowed hard and forced herself to look away, clenching her jaw. "Is he stable?" she asked, her voice a shade too tight. Ilya's eyes flicked up to her, and in that moment she knew he had felt it too. There was something in his gaze that hadn't been there before, an instinctive flinch, a flash of shame. "Stable enough," he said. "He needs a proper set and immobilization back in medbay, but the fracture is clean. He lost some blood, that's all." "Was that all when it was my blood?" Rivera muttered, trying for humor and failing. They got him onto a stretcher. Malik helped Ilya lift, but his hands trembled. Elena pretended not to notice. As they carried Rivera out, a drop of blood slid from the bandage and fell onto the floor. It splashed on the metal. Elena's gaze locked on it. The droplet gleamed under the bay lights, bright as a ruby. Her tongue pressed unconsciously against her teeth. Then it was gone, smeared under Malik's boot as he turned. Elena blinked and followed them out, her heart pounding too hard. 5 new cravings. Medical log, Dr. Ilya Voronin, Day 17/cycle 196. I am documenting this under professional obligation, not because I have any illusion that I will be believed. Since Rivera's injury, his recovery has progressed oddly fast considering his reduced caloric intake. His body is cannibalizing fat reserves at an accelerated rate, but muscle loss is minimal. Hemoglobin levels are low but within survivable bounds. Subjective sleep reports, vivid dreams. He did not elaborate. I am experiencing intrusive thoughts, especially when exposed to the sight or smell of blood. There is no polite way to phrase this, so I will be direct. The smell is pleasant, not frightening, not nauseating, intriguing. My mouth waters. This is not a normal response for me. I have seen grievous trauma in previous deployments, and never once did I respond like this. I have not told the captain yet. I don't know how. End log. Ilya wiped sweat from his brow and closed the recording. The medbay lights seemed too bright, the quiet beep of monitors too loud. He stared at Rivera, who lay on the bed with his legs suspended in a web of smart casts. The cook snored softly, his breath steady. Ilya's gaze drifted, against his will, to the faint bulge and line of the IV in Rivera's arm. He could see the flow beneath the skin, could almost hear the rush of fluid and blood. Heat radiated from the man's body in soft waves. "Stop it!" Ilya stood abruptly, knocking his stool over. The clatter snapped him fully back. He forced his eyes away, breathing through his nose, counting heartbeats. The hunger in his stomach was no longer the usual dull ache of skipped meals. It was sharp, electric, focused. He had tried to eat earlier, protein paste, nutrient broth, even a ration bar he had always despised. It had all turned to ash. But that smell in the engine bay. He had dreamed about it ever since. He left the medbay, locked the door behind him, and went to the dispensary. He drew a vial of his own blood with shaking hands and held it under his nose. The scent exploded into his senses like fireworks. His legs almost gave out. His body reacted before his ethics, his intellect, his 38 years of experience as a physician. He flicked his tongue out, tasted a red smear on his fingertip. Warm, metallic, dense, alive. Every cell in his body lit up with savage gratitude. He had swallowed before he even realized what he was doing. 6. The captain's dinner. Elena called another meeting 3 days later, this time in the smaller conference room adjacent to the bridge. She had not slept, no one had. They gathered around the oval table, Malik, Sato, Ilya, Rivera in a portable brace and the rest, Silva, Ortega, HWA Jin, Price, Feng and Kaminsky. 12 souls on a vessel built for twice that. Space felt both too large and too small. Elena set her palms on the table and studied their faces. Sunken cheeks, pale skin, eyes that flickered with something wild at the edges. "We have a problem," she said. Silence answered her. "Don't look so surprised," she added dryly. "We've been pretending otherwise for a week now." Malik shifted. "Food intake is down 30% ship-wide," he admitted. "Waste recycler data confirms it. People are trying, Captain, it's just like eating dust," Ortega said softly. "Like we're going through the motions for no reason." Sato cleared her throat. "I've reviewed all external sensor data for the last 20 days, she said. "There's nothing. No radiation spikes, no exotic matter fields, no unclassified signals. The drift is quiet. Space is normal." "Space is never normal," Malik muttered. "I mean," Sato continued, "there is nothing obviously correlated with our symptoms." Elena turned to Ilya. "Medical." The doctor's jaw hardened. He looked ashamed, she realized. Guilty, like someone who had broken a promise. "We're starving," he said simply. Rivera snorted. "Could have told you that without all your scanners, Doc." "I don't mean calorically," Ilya snapped, then took a steadying breath. "Our bodies are receiving enough basic energy to survive for now. But something in our reward system, in the hypothalamus and limbic pathways, has been rerouted. The signals that associate food with satiation are misaligned, miswired." "In plain language," Elena said. Ilya met her eyes. "Your body knows it needs something, but when you eat, it doesn't recognize what you're giving it as what it needs. So the hunger never turns off, no matter how much you swallow." A low murmur rose around the table, then died. "Is this permanent?" Price asked, voice thin. "I don't know," Ilya admitted. "I've never seen anything like it. I've started comparing neuromap data from pre-mission to now. There are differences." "What kind of differences?" Sato asked. Ilya hesitated. "Small structural shifts in certain clusters, as if they've been sculpted." The word hung in the air like a bad smell. "Sculpted by what?" Elena said. "We haven't encountered any anomaly. External conditions are nominal." "Maybe it's not external," Malik said quietly. "Maybe it's something we brought with us. Something we picked up in a previous pass through the drift and didn't notice. A latent agent that only activates under certain conditions." "A virus," Ortega suggested. "A signal," Sato countered. Elena lifted a hand. "Speculation later. Solutions now. Doctor, is there anything at all, we can consume that still registers?" Ilya swallowed. His gaze flicked involuntarily to Rivera's bandaged leg. "Blood," he said, so softly she almost didn't hear. The room went motionless. "Excuse me," Elena said. "I ran a personal experiment," Ilya forced out, his cheeks flushed. "A tiny amount, my own. It produced a measurable change in my hunger markers." "You drank your own blood," Malik said flatly. "A small sample," Ilya snapped. "Controlled. I am a physician, not a madman." "That's debatable," Kaminsky muttered. Elena's thoughts sparked in too many directions. Shock, revulsion, a bright, traitorous note of interest. "Are you saying," she said slowly, "that our bodies only respond to animal tissue?" "Specifically mammalian," Ilya said. "I tested printed animal proteins, no luck. Then synth-grown muscle tissue, no response. Then," his eyes met hers, "then I tried living tissue." Rivera shifted uncomfortably. "You bit yourself," he guessed. "I used a sterile lancet." "How far does this go?" Elena pressed. If you had, say, a steak from an actual cow, fresh-cut, blood warm. I don't know, Ilya whispered. We don't have that luxury. They all knew what they did have. 12 bodies. Warm, living, trapped in a tin, can hundreds of light years from any other source of fresh meat. The thought burst into Elena's mind unbidden, like a flare in vacuum. She saw from the flicker in the others' eyes that it had occurred to them too. No, she said aloud before anyone spoke. Forget it. We are not having that conversation. But we already are, Malik said, strangely calm. His pupils were dilated. Aren't we? Rivera laughed once, short and shaky. You think I don't smell it, he said, voice rough. Ever since I cracked my leg open in the bay, I catch you all looking at me like I'm something on a menu. That's not fair, Sato protested, but her hands were clenched white on the edge of the table. Elena's stomach twisted. When I change your bandages, Ilya said quietly, do you feel anything? Rivera went pale. What kind of question is that? A medical one, Ilya insisted. Do you feel dizzy, nauseous? Do you think about the blood you've lost? Rivera hesitated. Yeah, he said in a strangled voice. I think about it. I think about wasting it, like I spilled something precious on the floor and let it evaporate. That's the thing, Malik said slowly, almost wonderingly. Isn't it? Nothing else has any meaning now, not the printed stuff, not the paste, only. Enough, Elena's voice cracked like a whip. The room flinched. We are not animals in a cage, she said. We are not going to tear each other apart because some unknown influence rewired our appetites. We will find another solution. That is in order. They stared at her, hunger scraping the backs of their eyes. Until then, she added, rations will be monitored and enforced. No one eats alone. All meals will be communal in the mess hall under supervision. If this is partly psychological, we push back as a group. Understood. Weak nods circled the table. Elena slammed the meeting to a close before anyone could say what they were all thinking. We are already animals in a cage. 7 whispers in the hull. The Orpheus slipped deeper into the drift, the stars thinning outside the viewports until they were more memory than reality. Hunger hollowed them. Work schedules faltered. People made mistakes. Price miscalculated a trajectory correction and had to scramble to compensate before a thruster burn took them half a degree off course. Kaminsky left a tool unsecured in microgravity, and it drifted into an intake fan, sparking a minor electrical fire. No one was badly hurt, but each incident left nerves more frayed. At night, if it could be called that, in a ship where light and dark were commands, not astronomy, Elena lay awake and listened. The Orpheus creaked inside around her. Metal expanded and contracted under thermal cycles, whispering along the length of the hull. Air recyclers hummed. Pumps throbbed. Sometimes beneath the normal sounds, she thought she caught something else. A subtle tapping, a distant scraping. Like fingernails on the other side of the wall. Ship's log, Captain Elena Park, Day 22/Cycle 196. No external contacts. No hostile vessels, no debris fields, no anomalies. Internal morale declining. Crew exhibits signs of chronic sleep deprivation and malnutrition despite nominal caloric intake. I have restricted access to cutting instruments without medical authorization. I am starting to dream of teeth. 8. The first line crossed. It happened on day 24. Ortega didn't report for his shift. Elena found him in the storage locker adjacent to hydroponics. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and nutrient solution. Green leaves glowed under grow lamps beyond a transparent panel. Ortega sat on the floor, back against the wall, his legs pulled up to his chest. His left forearm was crisscrossed with shallow cuts. Blood smeared his mouth. Elena froze in the doorway. He looked up at her slowly. His eyes were wide and glassy, pupils blown. "Captain," he said, voice hoarse. "Sorry, lost track of time." She stared at his arm. The wounds were precise, almost surgical, staggered along the length of his skin as if he had been testing depth and pain thresholds. Some still oozed, others had already clotted. "Did you do this with unauthorized equipment?" she asked numbly. He shrugged. "Found a panel edge with a burr," he said. "Doesn't matter what you lock away, there's always something sharp somewhere." She stepped closer. The smell hit her then, fresh, metallic, alive. It crashed into her brain like a wave. Her knees almost buckled. "You've been," she swallowed, fighting back saliva, "you've been drinking your own blood." A flash of defiance cut through Ortega's emptiness. "And what if I have?" he said. "It's mine, better than wasting it." "You're harming yourself," Elena snapped. "You're compromising your ability to function, to do your job." "Function?" Ortega laughed, a ragged sound. "Look around, Captain. We're all ghosts already. At least this way the noise in my head shuts up for a few minutes." Her mouth opened, closed. No leadership seminar, no command simulation had prepared her for this. "This is an order," she said at last, each word heavy. "You will report to Medbay. You will submit to treatment. No more self-harm, do you understand?" He stared at her, then looked away. "Yes, ma'am," he muttered. She escorted him to Ilya, her skin crawling the entire time with the awareness of the wounded man walking beside her, the smell of iron drifting faintly from his arm. After she left him there, she went to the mess hall. It was empty between shifts, the tables clean and bare. The vast viewing window at the far end showed nothing but blackness, sprinkled with a handful of cold stars. In her mind, she saw them covered in red. She pressed a hand flat against the glass, breathing shallowly. "Pull yourself together," she whispered to her reflection. "You are their captain." But her reflection's eyes looked hungry. 9. Sato's theory. Sato found the pattern first. She cornered Elena in the corridor outside the lab, holding a datapad like a weapon. "Captain," she said, "you need to see this." Elena was too tired for another crisis. She took the pad anyway. Neuroimaging scans glowed on the display, spherical renderings of brains, color-coded in false hues. Lines and clusters lit up like city maps at night. "Before and after," Sato said, tapping the screen. "This is Ilya's brain from 6 months ago during his pre-mission eval, and this is from yesterday." Elena stared, but her eyes burned with fatigue. "What am I looking at?" "See these clusters?" Sato zoomed in, highlighting regions. "These are associated with reward processing, flavor perception, and certain associative memory pathways. They've always been there, nothing unusual. But now look." She overlaid a second pattern. Thin, thread-like lines emerged, connecting clusters that had previously been isolated. "It's like someone rewired the circuit board," Sato said softly. "Subtly, precisely." "Could this be normal neuroplasticity?" Elena asked. "Not this fast," Sato replied. "And not this specific. The changes are too targeted." She hesitated. "I pulled scans from you and 3 other volunteers. It's the same pattern with minor variations. We are all being remodeled." "By what?" Elena demanded. "You said there was nothing external." "I said there was nothing obvious," Sato cut in. "But I kept looking. There is a signal, Captain. A very low frequency, very faint modulation in the cosmic background noise. Too weak to trigger alarms, but it's there. It's been rising exponentially since we entered this region of the drift." Elena's stomach nodded. "A signal doing what exactly?" Sato swallowed. "Resonating with neural tissue," she said. "Specifically ours. It shouldn't be possible over this distance through this shielding, but the math checks out. It's like someone is humming at just the right pitch to make our neurons dance." "An attack?" Elena asked. "A weapon?" "A tool," Sato said, "or a call." She met Elena's gaze. "I think we've flown into something's influence field. Something old. Something patient. It's not sending us words, it's sending us a hunger. Why? Elena whispered. Sato's smile was brittle. Why does a spider spin a web? Elena stared at the scans, at the delicate latticework of altered pathways. If this is true, she said, can we block it, cancel the signal? I've been trying, Sato said. Noise-canceling fields, variable M shields, even trying to modulate our own internal generators to produce an inverse pattern. At best, I can dampen it locally by a few %, but whatever is out there, it's using physics in a way we don't fully understand. Like folding space but for brains. Elena exhaled slowly. So we're rats in a maze, she said, and the maze is our own skulls. I'm not giving up, Sato said quietly. But every hour we stay here, the pattern deepens. The drive to seek certain stimuli will only grow stronger. Certain stimuli being each other, Elena said. Silence acknowledged the horror between them. 10 rules for staying human. They instituted rules. No one was allowed to be alone with a wounded crew member. Bandages were changed with 2 people present, 1 medical, 1 observer. Knives were locked away. Even sharp-edged tools required dual authorization. Meals were mandatory, 3 times a day at set times, all together in the mess hall. Cameras watched every angle. It didn't help as much as Elena had hoped. The communal meals became exercises in endurance. Trays of printed rations sat scarcely touched. The crew poked, pretended, raised bites to their mouths and chewed with dead eyes. Across the table, Elena saw Malik's gaze linger too long on Rivera's fingers as they gripped a fork. Kaminsky stared at the hollow of Silva's throat, where a pulse beat faintly under the skin. Feng rubbed at a healing cut on his hand, then caught 2 others watching and yanked his sleeve down, face mottled with shame and anger. The hunger made liars of them all. Ship's log, Captain Elena Park, Day 27/Cycle 196. We have not yet broken. I repeat that to myself like a mantra. We have not yet broken. 11. The accident that was. On day 29, Price fell down a ladder shaft. It was, on paper, an accident. His grip had slipped. He had been dizzy from lack of proper nutrition. Feet tangled. Gravity did what gravity does. He broke 3 ribs and punctured a lung. Ilya worked on him in medbay. Elena watched from the doorway, fists clenched so tightly her nails cut into her palms. Blood frothed at the corners of Price's mouth as he gasped for breath. Each time Ilya pressurized the punctured lung and sealed the breach, another bubble of red appeared, glistening on the man's lips. Elena could feel every swallow in her own throat. Rivera stood behind her, braced on his crutches, jaw clenched. They both watched as Ilya leaned close, wiping Price's mouth with gauze. For a second, just a second, Elena saw his tongue twitch. "Doctor," she said sharply. Ilya flinched. He met her gaze. There was horror in his eyes, and worse, underneath the horror, an ember of desperate longing. "Out," Elena said. "Malik, get in there, assist." "Captain, Ilya began. "That's in order." He stepped back from the table as Malik rushed in with trembling hands, taking over the suction and gauze. Ilya walked past Elena, his shoulder brushed hers. She smelled it on him. Not blood, guilt, sweat, and something like surrender. She wanted to call him back, to shake him, to demand he fix this somehow, because he was the doctor and doctors healed things. That was what they did. Instead, she stood in the doorway of the medbay and watched Price writhe on the table. His eyes rolled, unfocused. His hand flailed out, fingers clutching at the air. They closed around hers. She looked down. "Please," he wheezed. A bubble of blood popped on his lips. "Make it stop." He didn't mean the hunger. He meant the pain, but in her mind the word blurred. "Stop. Hell." She squeezed his hand. The bones felt fragile, bird-like. "We're doing everything we can," she lied. 12. The smell of cooked meat. They tried cooking part of the dead hydroponics biomass as an experiment. Roots, stems, microbial cultures. Rivera spiced it, seared it, caramelized it. The mess hall filled with the smell of something almost like roasted vegetables. They gathered around, each with a small portion. Elena lifted a bite to her mouth like a sacrament. She chewed. Nothing. Nothing. Burnt paper and texture without meaning. She swallowed stubborn and nearly gagged. Around her, others did the same. Kaminsky spat his out and shoved his tray away, cursing under his breath in Polish. H.W. Agent's eyes filled with frustrated tears. "It's not fair," she whispered. "It's not fair." Elena pushed her own tray aside. Her stomach cramped in protest, but it wasn't because she was full. "We have stores for 30 more days at nominal intake," Malik said quietly. "At current reduced consumption, maybe 45. "We won't last 13, Ilya replied from the far end of the table. He stared at his untouched portion as if it were a cruel joke. "Not like this." "We have enough water," Sato said. "Enough oxygen, enough power. We're going to die of hunger surrounded by everything we need to live except the one thing we can't name." "We can name it," Rivera said. Everyone looked at him. He smiled weakly, the expression twisted by pain and something like dark humor. "It's already in the room," he said. "You just don't want to say it out loud." 13. The voice in the dark. That night Elena dreamed of a voice. It did not speak in words. It had no gender, no sound in the way a human voice had sound. It was pressure and rhythm, soft and endless. It pulsed through her bones, through the thin membrane of her skull, through the jelly of her brain. "Hungry," it said without language. "Hungry little spark." She floated in darkness. Around her faint glows flickered, the crew scattered like dim lanterns. Their stomachs were hollow caverns. Their mouths opened and closed in slow motion, empty. "Who are you?" she thought, or thought she thought. The darkness chuckled. She felt it more than heard it, a slow rippling through space. "We are what comes after." Her body twisted in the void. She saw, or imagined, a shape looming beyond the hull of the Orpheus. A vast, translucent lattice, threads of force spanning light years, humming with a frequency that nuzzled at human neurons like fingers. "We seeded the hunger long ago," the voice whispered, "in the small worlds, in the small warm-brained things. It sleeps until we call it." "Why?" she demanded. Her teeth ached. Her jaw felt full of knives. "We must eat," the voice said simply. "As you must, as everything that lives must. We grew tired of chasing prey, so we changed the prey. Now the little sparks seek us on their own, along the paths of their curiosity, their ambition, their loneliness." Pictures cascaded through her mind. Ships drifting into the black, their crews gaunt and fevered, turning on each other in tight metal corridors. Signals radiating out from some unseen center, latching onto the neural architecture of any mind complex enough to feel despair. "You did this to us," she thought numbly. "We woke what was already there," the voice replied. "We only tuned it." In the dark she felt the crew's hunger twist, tighten, narrow. Not for plants, not for printed protein, for each other. "We savor the echoes," the voice sighed. "Your fear, your shame, every bite you take of one another rings along our web like music." Elena tried to scream. Her mouth filled with blood. She woke up gasping, tasting nothing at all but stale air and the ghost of iron. 14. Plans and sacrifices. She told no one about the dream, but when she walked the corridors that day, she felt the unseen web all around them, humming, bright with their frantic, failing lives. On the bridge, the navigation hollow floated above the main console. A simple line through empty space, dots marking checkpoint buoys and drift beacons. "We turn back," Malik said. His voice was ragged. "We need to right now." "No guarantees it gets better if we go back," Sato pointed out. We don't know if the signal's bound to this region. It could be a field extending over some fraction of the arm. We could burn months of fuel trying to run, only to starve slower. I'd rather starve slower than, Malik trailed off, unable to finish. Elena felt the crew's eyes on her. We continue to the rendezvous point, she said. Command needs to know about this. If we turn back now without data, we die for nothing. If we make it to Relay 17, we can send a full burst. Someone can chart and avoid this region. Assuming anyone believes us, muttered Kaminsky. They will if we send them the scans, Sato said. The neuromaps, the signal analysis, hard numbers. Hard numbers don't show the way your bones itch, Feng said softly. Elena ignored that. We have 23 days to Relay 17, she said. Our task is to survive those 23 days without losing ourselves. And how do you propose we do that? Rivera asked. Pretend harder. His eyes met hers. There was something new in them. Resolution. And if someone volunteers, he added. Elena felt the deck tilt under her feet, though the artificial gravity field remained constant. Volunteers for what? She asked, though she knew. To be food, Rivera said calmly. One at a time, controlled. Doctor does it clinical, no frenzy. We draw lots. Or we pick people with terminal injuries, whatever. It buys time. Maybe enough for the rest to get to Relay 17 and warn someone. That's a purpose, Captain. Better than us all snapping and tearing each other apart in some corridor. The room erupted. No way. That's insane. I'm not. Shut up, Elena barked. Silence slammed down. She looked at Rivera. His face was set. His leg brace gleamed. You volunteering first? She asked quietly. He hesitated. Maybe not first, he said, but sooner or later, yeah. What am I really on this ship now? A half-useful cook when no one eats. The words hung like ice. Elena's chest hurt. She imagined choosing who would die when, how much of them would be used. Cold clinical carving, rationing flesh like emergency fuel. I will not authorize, she began. You might not have a choice, Malik cut in. If things keep going like this, someone's going to snap anyway. They'll kill, they'll gorge, and we'll lose everything, data, discipline, even the chance to make it matter. Elena turned on him. So your solution is premeditated cannibalism. My solution, he said through gritted teeth, is control. Your alternative is chaos. Her vision blurred at the edges. The voice from the dream whispered in the hollow behind her ears. They will eat. You might as well orchestrate the song. She slammed a hand down on the console, so hard pain shot up her arm. Meeting adjourned, she said. No one acts on anything we've said without my direct order. Anyone who attempts to harm themselves or another crew member will be restrained. Clear. No one answered. Clear, she roared. A sullen chorus of yes, Captain, rose around her. It did not sound like obedience. It sounded like a temporary truce. 15. The vote. They held the vote in secret. Elena found out afterward, which galled her almost as much as the content of the vote itself. Kaminsky came to her bunk, eyes hollow. We need you on the mess deck, Captain, she said. It's urgent. Elena followed her, dread and acid knot in her gut. The crew stood in a rough circle in the mess hall. The viewing window loomed behind them, black as an unplugged screen. Tables had been pushed back against the walls. On the central table lay a small pile of objects. Lots. Strips of cloth, buttons, a bent spoon handle. Someone had broken a chess piece from the rec room set. Each item was different, easily distinguishable by touch. What is this? Elena demanded. We talked, Malik said. Everyone without you. Obviously. We need a plan that acknowledges reality, Sato said softly. Her shoulders shook, but her voice was steady. You wouldn't hear it from us as your subordinates, so we decided to bring it to you as fellow passengers. This is mutiny, Elena said, though it sounded weak even to her. No, Rivera said, this is survival. He pointed at the table. We draw, he said. One marker means you go first. When the line is crossed, we do it clean, with anesthesia, with respect. No one feeds while the volunteer is still alive. We use the cryochamber for storage. No waste. Elena stared at the objects. They gleamed faintly in the overhead lights. Do you hear yourselves? She whispered. You're talking about butchering crewmates like livestock. Better than the alternative, Ortega said hoarsely. His bandaged arm twitched. Better than what we're already thinking every time someone gets a paper cut. Price stepped forward slowly, one hand on his mended ribs. I voted no, he said quietly. For the record, this feels wrong in a way I can't articulate. But if the others are going to do it, I'd rather you oversee it, Captain, to keep it humane. The word tasted like ash. Elena looked from face to face. None of them would meet her eyes for long. They had done this without her, but they still wanted her to bless it. She thought of the signal, the web, the voice that watched and listened from outside the stars. It wanted this, it fed on this. Absolutely not, she said. A murmur rose, angry, pained. We're not asking permission, Malik said softly. We're asking if you'll help us do it in a way that doesn't turn us into animals. You already did the hardest part, Rivera said. He sounded almost kind. You kept us from cracking this long. That's more than most captains might have managed. But there's a limit, Elena. She snapped at the use of her first name. You do this, and you are no longer my crew. Then what are we? HWA Jin asked, tears on her cheeks. What are we out here if not what we choose in this room? Elena's throat closed. Her hunger surged, a wave so strong she had to grip the back of a chair to stay upright. They smelled like heat and salt and life. The voice in the dark purred. Say yes, little spark, conduct the choir. She almost did. Almost. No, she rasped. If you do this, you do it without me. You do it as monsters, not as my people. She turned and walked out, each step a battle. Behind her, the room broke into argument, pleading despair. She didn't look back. 16, the line. They did it anyway. She knew the moment the line had been crossed, though no one came to tell her. She felt it, like a tremor in the deck plates. In the hours leading up to it, the ship's sounds changed. Conversations hushed, footsteps slowed. Someone cried softly in a distant corridor. The air felt thick. She locked herself in her cabin and stared at the wall. She could have overruled them, pulled rank, issued forceful restraints, but half the crew would have resisted and the other half might have secretly helped. Fractures would widen. Blood would still be spilled, only faster and messier. She listened to the hum of the life support, to the murmur of the signal just beneath hearing. Somewhere in the mess hall, they drew lots. Somewhere, someone's world collapsed. Later minutes, hours, a smell crept into the ventilation. She sat bolt upright. It curled under the door like a ghost. Meat, rich fatty, carried on steam and microscopic particles. Not burnt, not printed. Wrong and right at the same time. Her stomach cramped so hard she doubled over. She stumbled to the door and slapped the control. The corridor was empty. The smell was stronger there, tugging her toward the mess hall like a string. She walked. Her hands shook, her teeth ached, her tongue pressed against the back of her incisors. The mess hall doors were closed. A red status light glowed above them, occupied privacy mode. Her authorization overrode it. The doors slid open with a soft hiss. Heat poured out. They stood around the central table, faces slick with sweat, eyes wide. The viewing window beyond them was a yawning rectangle of blackness. On the table, under a stained sheet, lay a shape. Someone had tried to make it neat, surgical, parts separated, stored in labeled trays, limbs, torso, a shrouded head at the far end. Blood soaked into the sheet, pooling at the edges. It gleamed dark under the lights. For a moment, no one moved. Then they all looked at her at once. Elena's gaze slid to the empty space among them. Price. A piece of his dog tag lay on the table, half melted from whatever cutting instrument they had used. Her vision tunneled. "You," she began, but her voice broke. "We sedated him," Ilya said quickly. His face was ashen. He held a surgical saw in one trembling hand, its edge matted with red. He didn't feel it. The saw slipped from his grip, clattering to the floor. Rivera stood against the far wall, leaning on his crutches, eyes rimmed with red. Malik's fists were bloody. Kaminsky had vomit on her boots. No one had eaten yet. But the smell, it wrapped around them, around her, thick and seductive. Her stomach lurched and clenched. "You can still stop," she whispered. "You can." "Can we?" Malik asked. His voice was barely human, rough and ragged. "Can you?" Her mouth filled with saliva. Her knees shook. She took one step forward. "Stop," she told herself. "Stop." She took another. The tray nearest her held a slice of flesh, pink and marbled, glistening with fat. It could have been pork, beef, anything if not for the shape of the fingernails on another tray, neatly arranged. No one else moved, watching her, waiting. She realized in a distant corner of her mind that this was the last test, not of them, of her. If she refused now, if she turned away, maybe some part of her could still claim the word she had clung to so desperately. Captain. Her hand reached out. Her fingers closed around the warm, slick weight. She raised it to her mouth. The smell hit her full in the face, erasing the ship, the mission, the stars. For a heartbeat, she saw Price's grin, the way he had leaned back in his chair that first week and argued about old music. "I'm not asking permission," he had said in another context, another life. Her teeth closed. The first bite was the worst. Or the best. Her brain lit up like a city at night. Hunger roared through her, not as an emptiness now, but as a wave of relief. Every miswired signal, every screaming receptor, every twisted circuit suddenly found the shape it had been contorted to crave. A moan tore out of her throat. She didn't recognize the sound as her own. When she swallowed, something in her chest snapped and reformed. Around her, as if on cue, the others moved. The frenzy did not explode. It unfolded, slow and eerie, like a ritual. They took pieces, hands shaking, eyes wide. Some wept as they ate. Some closed their eyes. Some muttered apologies under their breath. Elena ate. She hated herself with each bite, and still she ate, because the alternative was madness and death, and she could not afford either, not if any of this was going to matter. Somewhere in the black outside, something listened. The echoes of their first communal feast rang along the web. 17 after. They did not speak much afterward. They cleaned the table in silence. They wrapped what remained with care and carried it to the cryochamber. Ilya catalogued each portion mechanically, as if labeling lab samples. Price's head lay shrouded on a separate tray. Elena forced herself to touch the cloth. "Thank you," she whispered, so softly no one else heard. She wasn't sure who she was thanking. Price for his unwilling sacrifice, the universe for not ending yet, herself for not breaking entirely. She slept without dreaming that night. Her stomach was quiet for the first time in weeks. Ship's log, Captain Elena Park, Day 30/cycle 196. We have crossed a line. We are 20 days from Relay 17. We have food. I do not know if we are still who we were. 18 the cost. The next days followed a grim new rhythm. Work, watch, small, measured portions from the cryo stores. The first meal was the worst, emotionally. Physically, it was transcendent relief. Afterward, every time, the guilt was a little easier to compartmentalize. The hunger never fully went away. It dulled like a migraine shifting from stabbing pain to a throbbing ache. They could think. They could function. Elena monitored the crew for signs of total psychological collapse. There were tears, nightmares, quiet breakdowns. Kaminsky stopped speaking entirely for 48 hours. Feng vomited after each meal and then forced himself to reconsume his rations, eyes dead. No one tried to stop the practice. The signal hummed on, more intense now as if pleased. Sato reported that the neuromap restructuring had accelerated. "Whatever is out there," she said, "it's using our behavior as confirmation, positive feedback. We've validated the pattern it imposed." "Can we still break it?" Elena asked. Sato looked at her for a long moment. "I don't know," she said. 19 last rations. Price's remains did not last as long as they had hoped. They tried to stretch it, tiny portions, strict schedule. But bodies that had been starving for weeks demanded reparation. Healing, regeneration, regrowth, all of it burned through calories. By day 37, the cryochamber shelves were almost empty. Elena stood in front of them, the cold vapor curling around her legs. "We need another volunteer," Malik said quietly behind her. He didn't sound triumphant, only exhausted. "If we want to make it to Relay 17. "We're 13 days out," she said. "If we reduce intake a little more, we might." "We won't," Ilya interjected from the doorway. His face was drawn. "The neuromap changes are still ongoing. Our baseline metabolism has shifted. We burn hotter now, hungrier. The same portions that satisfied last week barely take the edge off today." "So we speed up," Malik said, "or we die inches from the finish line." "Who draws this time?" Kaminsky asked hollowly. Silence stretched. "I will," Elena said. They turned to her, shock briefly piercing the numbness. "Captain, no," Malik said. "We need you too." "You need me?" she snapped. "For what? To sign off on more slaughter. To pretend this is still a mission instead of a slow-motion massacre. I'm as tainted as any of you. More, maybe, because I'm the one who ate first." "That's not true," HW Agent said quietly. "We were all about to." Elena ignored her. "I'll go," she said. "We portion me out. You finish the run, you get to Relay 17. You send the warning. That's the job, right? The captain goes down with the ship, or feeds it." The bitter joke fell flat. "No," Ilya said, voice suddenly fierce. "Absolutely not. You're not livestock, Elena. None of us are. That's what this thing out there wants us to think. That we're just meat running on signal. We can't keep giving it what it wants." "What would you suggest?" she asked icily. "Photosynthesizing." "Something else," he said. "Anything else. Break the pattern even if it kills us." "We are not martyrs," Malik growled. "We're the only ones who know what's happening out here." "Exactly," Ilya shot back. "And look at what knowing has done to us." Sato stepped between them. "Stop," she said. "Fighting each other is exactly what the signal is tuned for. We're being prodded into extremes." She looked at Elena. "There might be a third option," she said. Elena's chest tightened. "I'm listening." Sato's hands shook as she brought up a schematic on her pad. "There's a way to overload the neural pattern," she said. "To flood our brains with a countersignal so chaotic that it scrambles the imposed structure. A cognitive reboot, in a sense." "Side effects?" Elena asked. "Best case, temporary unconsciousness, seizures, possible minor tissue damage," Sato said. "Worst case, permanent cognitive impairment, coma, death." "And no guarantee it breaks the hunger," Ilya added. "No guarantee," Sato agreed. "But if it does, even partially, maybe we can go back to eating normal food, even if we're damaged, even if some of us don't wake up. At least we stop this." She gestured at the cryoshelves. "How do we do it?" Elena asked. "The main comms array," Sato said. "We repurpose it to emit a hyper-localized burst tuned to the inverse of the pattern I mapped. Instead of projecting outward, we collapse it inward, flooding the ship. It will fry half our long-range systems, but if we're close enough to Relay 17, we might limp in on short range. Malik snorted. So either we eat the captain, or we zap our brains and hope we don't all wake up as vegetables. No, Elena said quietly. They looked at her. We take the shot, she said. We hit ourselves with your counter-signal. We stop being instruments in someone else's song. And if we all die? Malik asked. She thought of the vast darkness, of ships unknowingly charting courses into invisible hunger fields. If we die, she said, we deny it the entertainment. 20. The reboot. They spent the next 12 hours preparing. Sato recalibrated the comms array, her fingers clumsy with fatigue. Malik rerouted power, grumbling under his breath. Ilya prepped medbay for seizure management, straps, sedatives, crash kits. Elena recorded a message to Relay 17, compressed and encoded, set to transmit on a low-band automated loop as soon as the array came back online, if it did. She did not listen back to it. When everything was ready, they gathered in the medbay. Beds, stretchers, even the floor, anywhere they could be secured. Elena lay on a gurney, strapped snug across her chest and limbs. Sensors dotted her temples and chest. This might be the last stupid thing we ever do, Malik muttered as Sato slid into position in the doorway, pad in hand. Through the glass, the comms console glowed like a waiting eye. On 3, Sato said. Her voice shook, but her hands did not. 1, 2. Wait, Ilya said suddenly. Sato looked up. We can't wait any longer, Ilya, the signal. I know, he said, He moved to Elena's side, meeting her gaze. You did better than anyone could have, he said, out here with this. She wanted to say something back, a joke, a deflection. Instead, the words that came out were simple. Don't let them forget us, she whispered. I won't, he said. Sato's finger hovered over the control. 3, she said. The world turned white. Sound exploded inside Elena's skull, a shriek so high it was almost silence, vibrating every bone. Light stabbed into her eyes, even though they were closed. Her body arched against the straps as every muscle spasmed. Her teeth clamped so hard she tasted blood. Her heart stuttered, faltered, pounded again. Something tore in her mind. The web. She felt it rip. For a heartbeat, she was falling through an infinite lattice, threads snapping around her, clumps of consciousness tumbling into the void. The voice howled, not with anger but with startled interest. Little spark, it whispered as it receded, clever. Then nothing. 21, waking. She woke to quiet. No signal. No humming pressure in the back of her skull, no subtle tug on her thoughts. Just the soft beep of monitors and the slow hiss of ventilation. Her head hurt like someone had taken a drill to her temples. Her tongue was thick. Her mouth tasted of metal and cotton. Captain, a voice said. She blinked, forcing her eyes open. Ilya leaned over her, one eye swollen, a bruise blooming along his jaw. A cut above his eyebrow had been hastily sealed. You with me? He asked. She swallowed, her throat felt raw. Hungry, she croaked. His expression flickered with fear, then cautious hope. What kind of hungry? He asked. She thought about it. Her stomach growled, a familiar, mundane sensation, not the electric insanity of the past weeks, not the razor-wire craving for warm flesh. Just hungry, she said. Ilya sagged with relief, so pure it was almost painful to watch. It worked, he whispered. At least partly. The neuromaps are still weird, but the imposed pattern is scrambled. The signal, what's left of it, is just noise. She tried to sit up, the room spun. Around her in other beds, the crew lay groaning, blinking, stirring. Anyone not wake up? She asked. His face shadowed. Feng, he said quietly. His heart didn't handle the stress. I'm sorry. Her eyes burned. She nodded once. We knew the risks, she said. He gave a humorless smile. We keep saying that. How long was I out? She asked. 6 hours. She did the math automatically. Time to relay 17, now 12 days. Food, she said. He handed her a cup. Clear broth, reconstituted vegetable proteins. The smell was mild, salty. Her stomach clenched, but not from revulsion. She sipped. Flavor bloomed across her tongue. Weak, thin, nothing like the rich horror of before. But it was something. Her eyes filled with tears. It's good, she said, laughing once brokenly. Ilya laughed too, a sound half hysterical. It's terrible, he said, but it's good enough. 22. Ghosts in the freezer. They gathered in front of the cryo-chamber that evening. The shelves gleamed with frost. Price's remains lay there still. He didn't consent, Kaminsky said. Her voice was hoarse. Not to this. We didn't give him the chance, Malik said. We don't know that, Rivera said quietly. We didn't ask him either way. That's the part that keeps me up. Elena stared through the glass. Her hunger gnawed at her, soft but insistent. The broth had taken the edge off, nothing more. We won't eat any more, she said. The crew turned to her. Ever? Malik asked. We might not have a choice if the normal rations. They work, Ilya said. Our bodies are responding. It's just going to be lean. We'll be weak. But we can make it if we're careful. And if the hunger comes back? HWAGN asked, small and scared. Elena forced herself to look away from the meat in the freezer. If it comes back, she said, we still don't eat any more of him, or of anyone. That's a line we don't cross again. We already crossed it, Rivera said. Then we draw another, she replied. Silence. Dump him into space, Malik asked, funeral pyre in the void. He deserves better than being recycled as radiation, Sato said. We can't bury him, Kaminsky whispered. There's no ground. Elena braced a hand on the cold metal. We carry him, she said finally. We bring him to Relay 17. We add his name to the report. We make sure every chart of this region has a red mark that says, here there is hunger. And then, Ortega asked. And then we see if what's left of us is still human enough to live with what we've done. 23. The Last Supper. 12 days later, 12 hard, thin, sleep-starved days, they were one shift away from Relay 17. The station's transponder pinged faintly on the displays, a distant, blessed beacon. They had burned through every trick to stretch their supplies, switching to lower gravity mode to reduce muscle strain, sleeping more to slow metabolism, drinking water to fill empty stomachs. The hunger did not return to its monstrous pitch, but it never really left either. It sat with them at every watch, every conversation, a quiet third presence. On the final evening, Elena called the crew to the mess hall. The viewing window showed a faint speck of light ahead, Relay 17's outer beacons, winking in encoded patterns against the dark. On the central table stood a single pot. Rivera ladled out portions. What is it? Kaminsky asked, peering into her bowl. He shrugged. Everything we had left that wasn't nailed down, some dried spices, a bit of algae from hydroponics, a sacrifice to the culinary gods. They sat. No cameras this time, no rules beyond the unspoken one they all carried now. Elena looked around the table. Faces pale, eyes lined, bruises from seizures and accidents not yet fully faded, scars visible and invisible. To Price, she said. They raised their bowls. To Feng, Ilya added. More murmurs. To all the poor bastards who flew this route before us and didn't know what they were up against, Malik said. And to the ones who'll know because of us, Sato said. They drank. The stew was thin, bland, oversalted in some places and underseasoned in others. It was also the best thing Elena had ever tasted. She forced herself to eat slowly, to savor each bite, not because the food deserved reverence, but because the act did. Across from her, Rivera chuckled weakly. "What?" she asked. "Just thinking," he said. "We went through all that, and we end with soup." "Could be worse," Malik said. "Could be nothing." Lights flickered once overhead, a minor power fluctuation. They ignored it. "So what happens when we dock?" Jin asked. "You think they'll let us just walk off this ship after they read the logs?" "They might lock us up," Kaminsky said. "Study us, poke at our brains." "Let them," Ilya said, "if it keeps anyone else from flying into this." Elena watched them. She felt the weight of the report waiting to be sent. The nightmare compressed into data and words. The part where she would have to write, in clear language, what they had done to survive. There would be inquiries, tribunals, maybe charges. Maybe worse. She had been ready to die for them on day 37. Now she realized living would be harder. "Whatever they do," she said, "we tell the truth, all of it, no excuses, no lies, we own it." "And if they call us monsters?" Rivera asked. She met his gaze. "We don't let a thing in the dark be the one to define what we are," she said. Silence settled again, but it was a different silence than weeks ago. Not empty, just full of things that didn't yet have names. The stew bowls emptied. Someone, Jin, perhaps, started humming under her breath. A thin, wavering tune. An old lullaby, maybe. One by one, others joined, not quite knowing the melody but adding their own threads. The hum rose, filling the mess hall. Out beyond the glass, the dark listened. If the web was still there, if any echoes of the old signal still clung to space, it heard something new now. Not just the sharp, bright spike of predation and shame, but something softer, more complicated. Survival, guilt, defiance. The lights flickered again. This time they didn't come back. 24, lights out. For a second no one moved. The mess hall plunged into darkness, the only illumination a faint emergency strip along the floor. The speck of Relay 17's beacon vanished as the viewing window polarized automatically under power loss protocol. "What the?" Malik began. The ship shuddered. Not with an impact, not with a system failure, but with something slower, like a hand closing gently around the hull. The humming stopped. Everyone held their breath. "Emergency systems should have kicked in," Sato whispered. "They're not." "Backup plant?" Malik asked. "Janus report." The ship's AI did not answer. A soft, almost imperceptible tapping came from somewhere beyond the far wall. Then another, closer. Knuckles on metal. No fingertips. The hair on Elena's arm stood up. "Everyone stay calm," she said into the dark. Her voice sounded smaller without the amplifying comfort of lights and displays. "Malik, can you get to an access panel? See what's—" The tapping moved. Up along the ceiling, across. It became a skittering, like something with too many limbs crawling over the outer hull. From the black of the viewport, a glow bloomed. Not the distant, clean light of a station beacon. Something organic, pulsing. Threads of luminescence spread across the polarized glass, silhouetted against the emergency dim. They traced patterns, lattices, a web drawn in light. Elena's breath caught. She knew somehow that this wasn't physical. The hull sensors read no impact, no force. The sound in her bones was back, dim but present. The voice, when it came, was not in her ears. "Little sparks," it murmured, "you broke our toy." Elena's teeth clenched. "We're done playing," she said aloud, though she knew it did not need air to hear. Around her the crew stared at the glowing patterns. Some clutched their bowls, some each other. "You tasted well," the voice said, curious. "The song of you. The way you tore and wept and fed, we could have had such music for so long. No more, she said. Find something else to torment. A ripple of amusement, irritation, it was hard to parse. There are always more, it said. The galaxy ripens with new minds. You are not special little sparks, just early. The threads on the viewport pulsed. You could still join us, it whispered. Open your hull, let the dark in. We will take the shells of you into our web. You will feel everything, forever. Elena thought of weeks of gnawing hunger, of Price's eyes, of the taste in her mouth. She thought of the stew tonight, of the hum of her crew's shaky, human song. No, she said. Behind her someone, Rivera, she thought, laughed, a raw, defiant bark. Shove your web, he said, voice trembling. We're not your cattle, not anymore. The glow on the viewport dimmed for a heartbeat, as if the darkness itself had blinked. Interesting, the voice said. You cut your own strings, that is new. The ship shuddered again. Somewhere a relay clicked. A screen flickered faintly alive, then died. We will watch, the voice said softly. When your kind comes this way again, and they will, oh, they will, we will be waiting. Perhaps some will choose differently. The tapping receded. The glow faded from the viewport, threads drawing back into the infinite black. Lights stuttered, flickered, then surged back to life in a harsh, too bright blaze. The mess hall snapped into clarity. Empty bowls, pale faces, the faint shimmer of frost on the viewport where something that wasn't condensation had briefly traced its mark. Janus's voice crackled through the ceiling speakers, distorted, rebooting. Critical system restart complete. Power fluctuation logged. Apologies for the interruption, Captain. Elena swallowed. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. We're still on course, she asked. Yes, the AI replied. Relay 17 docking ring in range in 3 hours, 21 minutes. She looked around at her crew. Some were crying openly now. Some were laughing, hysterical and relieved. Some just sat, staring at nothing. We finished the run, she said. Her voice was raw, but it held. We dock, we tell them everything. And then if they lock us up, if they dissect our brains, if they shove us into a dark hole and throw away the key, we remember this. Remember what? HWA Jin whispered. That when the lights went out, Elena said, and hunger and the dark both came for us, we stayed at the table, together. She took a breath. Janus, she added, flag this ship's log as priority 1 upon connection. Encryption level Omega, title it. She hesitated. The hunger field, she said. No, call it hunger in the dark. Log flagged entitled, Janus said. Elena looked at the black beyond the glass. Somewhere out there, threads still hummed, waiting for the next curious ship, the next unaware crew. Let them come, she thought, but let them come warned. She sat back down at the table. Across from her, Rivera lifted his empty bowl in a mock toast. To the worst dinner party in human history, he said. She snorted. To the fact we're here to regret it, she replied, and clinked her invisible glass against his. Outside, Relay 17's beacon grew brighter. Inside, their hunger gnawed, but it was bearable. For now, the end.